Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, and everybody's here. It's a full boat and a big old bunch of games to predict. That's right. We've also got last week's games to go through, so it's a full-on football podcast. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews, and obviously the big one, the big juicy one, as they like to say, is share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this podcast their way. They will love it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. It's your favourite people over here at the CookieCast Podcast Network coming to you live. Well, as live as a taped podcast can be, I suppose. With your weekly update in the football sphere. Those of you watching on YouTube will notice that we are back to our full complement this week. Mr. Moore back from assignment that he was sent on last week to join us to make us up to our full complement. Obviously, I've said that Mr. Moore's here, but he's joined by our esteemed colleagues, Mr. Andrew Cook and Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. How are we this week, gentlemen?
Irritated? Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a fair place to start, and let's start with that irritation. Not that type of irritation, although creams are available. We'll start on Teesside, where my boys Middlesbrough took on Bristol City. Now, Bristol City went into this without their manager, Liam Manning, as sadly he suffered a bit of a family tragedy in the fact that he was probably reeling from the fact that he's just lost his young baby son Theo. And obviously the assistant manager was taking the game, so obviously massive condolences go out to Liam Manning there. I don't know if I had the sort of the feeling that it was going to be sort of Bristol City wanting to put in more of a performance than normal because they wanted to show that they were sort of behind the manager and whatnot. But Borough seemed to be the team that came out of the traps a little bit quickest, and they had several chances where they could have taken the lead. But as seems to be the case with a lot of the Borough games this season, just unable to make. They're making loads of chances, just cannot convert them for love nor money. I think they are the highest creating team in the championship, just not able to put the ball away. And it was that profligacy in front of goal that came back to bite them again in the 27th minute when is it Anis Mehmeti opened the scoring for Bristol City. Borough played out a goal kick to the edge of the box where Hayden Hackey tried to play the ball round the corner, one of his teammates, but Jason Knight had read the situation and just nicked in to take the ball away from the intended recipient. He then carried the ball into the box and then looked back to pick out Mehmeti, who just had to sort of get the ball out of his feet and finish high into the roof of the net past Senny Yang. So another sort of situation where Borough probably should have taken a chance to go 1-0 up, get punished by the fact that they haven't taken the chance and find themselves 1-0 down. They then had a couple of chances to equalise. Latte Lath had one that he just flashed wide. And they were punished yet again on the 45th plus 2 minutes of injury time. Jason Knight again was the one who did the damage. He was driving with the ball, made his way to the edge of the box. It was actually quite a good challenge by Aidan Morris to actually stop his progress, but then he kind of, as he challenged for the ball, he must have sort of overbalanced and wasn't able to get onto the ball to kick it away, to clear the danger fully. And Hirakawa, found himself in the right place at the right time. The ball sat up perfectly for him to just sort of come onto and then just left foot, pass it into the corner, past Senny Dieng. Nothing that Dieng could have done with either of the strikes, to be honest with you. Two good finishes from Bristol City. And by the sounds of it, the rest of the game kind of petered out to a bit of nothing, really. No more massive chances to discuss, but just a typical Borough performance, really. I'll have a look at the stats because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, same old, same old. 69% possession, 20 total shots, only 2 on target. Bristol City had 9 shots, of which 3 were on target, and obviously they scored from 2 of those. So, same old thing for the Borough. Making loads of chances, just can't finish them. Couldn't he tackle a dinner, as I believe the Scots would say. It might get better. It probably won't. We'll see. Predictions-wise, sadly, Mr. Moore will be coming out of this week with no points, as no predictions made it into us. So never mind. He won't be getting any points. He's not the only one not getting any points, as we all had varying degrees of Middlesbrough win. Stu had 2-0, Andy had 2-0, I had 2-1. So I was the only person who even gave Bristol City a goal. And sadly, Scott Twine didn't score. So no points from the first game. We move to the second game, and we actually move to Sunday, as these games were played over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So not the first time that we'll hear that our teams are playing over 3 separate days. This one was live on the Sky Telly box on Big Boy Sky, no less, not on Sky Sports Plus, where Hull City took on Sunderland, and I believe you were in attendance, and unhappy with the level of officiating, shall we say?
Very much so. Very, 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 very much so. First off, huge shout out to Sky for really fucking up everybody's weekend by putting a game on at 3 o'clock on a Sunday, making everybody then wake up the next morning thinking it was possibly Sunday again. Definitely didn't happen to 3 of the 4 people in this house. Anyway, moving along. Sunday seemingly was the day that we saw the EFL's plan to get Sunderland promoted take a brand new turn, kick into a fresh gear, if you will, by appointing Bobby Madley as the match official. Some of you may recognise the name as a former Premier League referee because he got demoted for being shit. More on that later. To start off with, what I should say is the first half was an absolute snooze fest. So if you did happen to catch any of it on the TV, I can only hope that you were busy during that time, maybe catching up with something exciting like ironing. Yeah, Sunderland were on top for most of it. There wasn't really much in the way of action from them, though, in the sense of they were confined to like the areas to the edges of the penalty area. They seemed to get down the wings, and particularly to their number 10 on their right wing, seemed to be like open more than Asda midweek. And he was receiving the ball time and time again, and doing approximately jack shit with it. So that was all good from a Hull City perspective, whilst not incredible in terms of an attacking form. The only real sort of note to mention from the first half was that Hull had 2 penalty decisions turned down. Marvin Malin was untimely shoved to the ground by Sirkin, or Kirkin, depending how you pronounce it. And then there was a sniff of a Chris Mepham handball. Now, on review of the handball after the game, it did look as if that was possibly just outside the area. But in a live environment with a referee that's turned down to a live crowd, 2 absolute stonewall penalties. The referee was then booed off at half-time. He'd shown some other inconsistencies during the half. It wasn't his finest hour. Certainly not from a Hull perspective, but his Sunderland finest hour was yet to come. For how bad Hull were in the first half, they came out looking like an entirely different side second half. The first 20 minutes was all Hull, but as I say, the real star of the show was about to emerge, and up stepped Mr. Bobby Madley. Hull got a corner, played in from the Hull's left-hand side, played short, and then it was being squared to the edge of the penalty area where effectively Marvin Malem should have been clear to run onto it and absolutely smash it. No, that'd be right, because the referee was playing 12th man for Sunderland and completely blocked him. The ball didn't touch the referee, apparently. So to the letter of the law, play was allowed to continue, even though the ball, after being blocked, fell to a Sunderland player and they ran up the other end of the pitch and scored. So yeah, huge congratulations there. I can only assume that he either is a Sunderland fan or he's just crying out for some sort of Tyne-Wear derby next season. Absolute sick individual. So that happens. It was Isidore that officially scored for Sunderland on the 63rd minute. Resident calm centre-half Alfie Jones was so incensed that he got booked for his reaction to it, and then one of the coaches, Julian Hubner, got booked for it as well for the protests. Just before this had happened, I should actually mention Hull hit the bar, so we had some other chances too, but officially didn't register a shot on target. I mean, the game obviously wasn't over at 1-0. There was still plenty of time for Bobby Madley to show his allegiance once again when he blocked a Sunderland pass in the centre circle, and this time decided he was going to pull play back and give them a drop ball because, absolute bell end. Not that I'm bitter about it days afterwards. You can probably pick that up, right? I think the most disappointing thing about it, aside from the fact it cost us the game, was just the complete lack of consistency all the way through the game. For one thing that was a free kick for us wasn't a free kick for them, and vice versa. And Tim Volter took his moment after the final whistle to go and consult. I mean, I say consult, I mean insult the referee, because he also picked up a booking after full time as well. So Hull came away with no goals, no points, and 3 shiny yellow cards for the occasion. And just special mention for Paul. Aaron Connolly did come on as a substitute, I believe, to possibly make his Sunderland debut, and will be shocked and saddened to hear that he absolutely did fuck all.
Nice to see that leopards don't change their spots and shit strikers remain to be shit. Podcast predictions wise, Mr. Andrew Cook, sadly no points with his 1-0 Bedia prediction. Paul Williams, no points, sadly, with his 2-2 Bedia Burstow Rig Roberts prediction. Mr. Stuart Woodmansey, however, predicted a Sunderland 2-1 win. 1 point. No goal for Bedia. No goal for Mundell. But did predict Isidore to score. So 2 points right there for Mr. Woodmansey. And we finish off the week's games with the Monday night football. No. It wasn't what was taking place at York College, ladies and gentlemen. Although 2 goals. Just saying. It was Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. Now, I can't say for definite that there was more interest in this than there was at the game at York College. But how did it go? Oh, well, I'll come to you, Mr. Murray, to ask for the rundown on how the game went. But I believe Mr. Woodmansey would like to ask you a question here.
I was just going to ask if anybody had picked Paul Williams to score 2 goals on Monday night, and if they did, is that double points for accuracy?
If anyone ever does come down to watch on a Monday, they would know never to put Paul Williams down for a goal, or to be one of the guys who comes off the pitch looking any different to how he went on, as the amount of effort put in is about less than 0. So
your face is the same colour as your Middlesbrough top, so it looks like a Middlesbrough morph suit type thing.
I wish that'd mean that I'd had another game, but that is never.
I was going to ask if it was 2 goals you let in as opposed to 2 goals you scored.
Oh no, There was 2 goals scored and some horrendous mistakes causing opposition goals, but we won't go into that. We'll carry on with the Forest Palace game.
Well, kind of preceding the Forest Palace game, obviously the FA decided to hand out their variety of fines for different situations Forest have got themselves into in the past 6 months, shall we say. So obviously, I don't know if you guys mentioned it last week, there was the £750,000 fine that was handed down for the notorious tweet from the Everton game last year. That is apparently the second, well, taking the European Super League clubs out of it, it is the second highest fine for a club in the history of football. The only team that had been fined more was QPR, which was 839,000. Random number. But yeah, apparently the FA were going for £1 million for Forest, or the Premier League were going for £1 million for Forest. They agreed upon 750,000. Of course, Forest are appealing this because there's week upon week, clubs' Twitter things put out. I mean, not quite as bad as the Forest one, but not that far off some of the stuff that Forest have said. Following that was like the headline, but also sneaking underneath the headline was Morgan Gibbs-White got an extra game ban and £20,000 fine for the reaction to Brighton getting sent off at Brighton the other week. Nuno got 3 games, and I can't think how much his fine was. 40,000, I want to say, something like that. The reason why they are that amount though goes back possibly to the Liverpool game. So a lot of them got suspended sentences for that. The Liverpool game, not the game we won.
Oh, sorry.
Won the previous season, which we should have. Well, we definitely shouldn't have won. They definitely shouldn't have lost anyway. And the best one is that apparently, so Marinakis got a 5-game stadium ban. Insane. For spitting on the floor in front of the officials. I'm like, ooh. It's like,
have I got it right in thinking that it's rumour that apparently when it came down that he was given a 5-game stadium ban, that Forest actually asked for that to be increased to 35 games? No, just joking.
But after all that kind of thing, I think, and it's the kind of thing of like, oh, can it galvanise the kind of thing? And it's a tacky thing, but it's that kind of age-old identity thing. So like, Nottingham has a history of being the city that pushes against the royal kind of family at the time, kind of thing. So it's a rebel city. So that they fully lent into that with going into Monday night's game against Crystal Palace. I was worried about this game because obviously Palace have flattered to deceive to start the season, and apparently the first half went by. It was a bit kind of chaotic all over the shop. Lots of kind of frenetic action, but not a whole lot of production. From the highlights that I've seen, Forest had some really good chances, mainly through Chris Wood, but nothing to show for it. Right at the end of the half, he kind of gently cradled it back to Dean Henderson after a really nice cross from Hudson-Odoi, but it was like it was a really nice pass back. I mean, in the 80s, that kind of thing would have been celebrated. But after half time, Palace kind of came out quite well, looked to kind of like stamp their authority on the game, and then Forest took the lead. Chris Woods, I think, I'm giving Henderson credit. It was a shocking attempt at a save. The only kind of bit of forgiveness you could give him was Wood took it early. Would have been the only thing. Took it early. Nice hit, but squirmed under his arms and perhaps a slightly greasy pitch, but should have done better. But yeah, 1-0 to Forest. Couple of I think Palace would resorted just to shots from the outside of the box. Really good save from Sells to tip it onto the bar. But yeah, so Forest come out 1-0 winners. Decent result, and up to 8th in the table. And if we look towards, obviously, when we come to the predictions, Leicester, if we beat Leicester, we go up to 5th for 24 hours. But, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I have to say on this game, I actually saw quite a bit of the first half, and frenetic was the best description I would have used as well. But it was also watching Palace in that first half. It was almost like playing FIFA with like a 6-year-old, in the sense of any time the striker got the ball, if they're on the halfway line, if they're by the corner flag, shoot. Eddie Nketiah he was looking for his goal bonus last night from any angle he could possibly find, from any yardage he could possibly find. He had one thing on his mind, but none of it was going to work from any position that he found himself in, because he was terrible.
I'd be intrigued by that one. I mean, obviously, I didn't watch it. I don't. I mean, and I don't kind of. I kind of avoid that side of social media. But I assume that there might be some Forest fans that might have given him pelters for the few days before. And if he got booed when he first went onto the pitch, that wouldn't surprise me either. Because obviously he almost signed for Forest and then turned them down to sign for Palace as well. And then the feedback was, holy shit, we dodged a bullet, I think is the general kind of gist of what Forest fans said.
My favourite one was he got played in on the right-hand edge of the penalty area, and he snatched at the shot so badly, I think it actually went further wide than he was currently stood at that point.
Lovely stuff. He's definitely got pelters from the Forest fans then for that. That's why he's played like that.
You do like to see it. I noticed you said that you're a bit apprehensive about this one. The reason why you probably shouldn't have been apprehensive about this was what I heard on the radio was apparently Palace haven't won at the City Ground since 1991.
But also as well, that was their 8th game of the season, and it kept referencing the fact that they've never gone 8 games unbeaten. Every time they've lost the first 7, they've then won the 8th.
Yeah.
So there was contradiction like in the stats.
You think that obviously they've not, but you got to think like 25, 26 of those years we weren't in the same division as each other. So
this is also the thing. It's like when people say, "Oh my, there hasn't been a Sheffield Steel City derby in like 8 years or something like that." It's like, or Sheffield United are unbeaten in Steel City derbies for the last like 10 years. Yeah, they've played like 3 or something like that in that time. So why would they do? Predictions wise, we all got points in this one, as we all had Nottingham Forest wins. I went 2-1 with a Gibbs White goal, which was impressive, as he wasn't even playing. So that was never going to happen. I went for Eze for Palace, but I did go for Wood to score for Forest, so I get a bonus point there. Andy had gone 2-0 with Hudson-Odoi and Wood. Stu didn't have the goal scorer, but did have the 1-0 win, so he gets 2 points for that. So it means that myself and Mr. Cook finished the week with 2 points apiece. But Mr. Woodmansey gets 4 points for the week and the win. Congratulations to you, sir.
Can't be too happy about that, because 2 of those points came from my team getting beat.
Well, that brings week 9 to an end. Week 10 brings with it 5 games, 2 of which may or may not be played within the next 24 hours. And then our teams have weekend duty. So we're going to step away briefly, quick break, and then we'll come back at you with the first of week 10's fixtures, which is Hull City versus Burnley. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back in. So, week 10, 5 games to go. The first of which, as we said before the break, sees Hull City taking on Burnley. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team. He will give his prediction last. As we've not heard any predictions from Mr. Moore in a good 2 weeks, why don't we go over to him for the first prediction of this week's podcast? Matt, what have you got down for Hull versus Burnley?
It's not a good start. I've gone for a Burnley 3-1 win.
Oof. Stonker. Your Hull goal scorer?
Millar?
And do you have 3 Burnley goal scorers, or is it a doubling up?
I have 2. I have 2 from Brownhill and Anthony. Just the one.
I'm assuming not the Manchester United player.
No.
Although, honestly, wouldn't put it past him to have a shot from Old Trafford and it probably land in the MKM Stadium, to be fair.
I think he'd
He's
struggle to
just
score
that
on the
good.
boys' training session on a Monday.
Well. Mr. Cook?
I'm giving Hull the chance on this one. I'm going 1-0. And as I promise, I will once again attempt to say his name correctly. Bedia.
Stadium announcer went rogue at the weekend and went with Bedja.
Ooh, I could get on board with that.
He's obviously going for our approach of, if we say it enough times, enough different ways, at some point you'll get it.
I think there's more chance of somebody hitting the crossbar from the halfway line at the halftime entertainment to win 10 grand than there is of any of us getting his name spot on by the end of this season.
Unless he's having like a competition with himself in that he's going to say it as many different ways and see if anyone in the stadium picks up on it, the fact that he pronounces it differently each week.
It's the verbal equivalent of the old Mr. Shaky Hands man from Banzai. That's what it is.
I am in agreement with Mr. Moore, sadly, on this one. I've gone for a 2-0 Burnley win. I've gone for goals from Laurent and Koleosho. Dare I suggest that you might have a similar outcome on your paper, Mr. Woodmansey?
I have Hull 1, Burnley 2. I've got Palmer for Hull. He's back from international duty now. He, for me, should be a little bit nearer to the starting lineup because he's had a little sleep. But then for Burnley, I've got Fleming and Cullen.
Only just dawned on me now that obviously Palmer's first name is KC.
Yep.
Wouldn't that have been nice about 10 years ago?
For those of the uninitiated, the MKM Stadium used to be known as the KC Stadium. So,
our second game of the week. These are all being played on Wednesday, by the way. So obviously, by the time this is released, probably today. These are available on the Sky Sport Plus channel, or if you're watching Middlesbrough versus Sheffield United, available on Big Boy Sky channel. Ooh, won't that be nice for everybody? Absolutely not. Middlesbrough versus Sheffield United, obviously it's my team, so I will give my prediction last. Andy, we'll go to Andy first, because I feel like we might need to get some optimism in the podcast first off.
Found something new this evening. Score lines will all be the same, but I decided to actually go and, get other people for goal scorers. I'll be needing a few of them later in the podcast, so I thought I'd best go and, dig around and find some. So I've got Latte. He's got to get a goal. But I was like, let's get somebody else in the mix. Hamilton. Now, I get to play my favourite game of, he's never played for the club. He doesn't actually reside in this country. The website's never been updated since 1994. Who's that again for the rest of the podcast? So it's going to get real. It's going to get real in the weeds kind of podcast prediction. Look forward to that one.
So would I be correct to think you've got a 2-0?
2-0.
Excellent. Stu?
I've gone for a 1-1. I feel like the Bristol City thing was a bit of a blip. Speaking of blips, I'm in agreement with Mr. Cook that it's about time Latte sorted his out. So we've got Latte laugh for that. And purely because he was a little twat when they played against us, I've gone for Hamer.
Wouldn't be the first time that you netted at the Riverside. Matt?
Unfortunately, I've gone for a Sheffield United 2-1 win. I've gone for a Zaz for the Borough.
He's doing it, Stu. He's playing the odds. He's playing the long game.
And then I've got Rak Saki of Sheffield United. And I've gone for Hamer as well.
Tell you what, having seen that guy, that Raksaki looks like a decent player, to be honest.
He strikes me as the sort of player that Palace have potentially loaned him out with the idea of getting some game time, and inadvertently you've potentially looked at their next season's sort of player because they might be in that division. So
at least it wasn't Chelsea that did it, because they'd probably release him on loan and then try and still buy him back.
Or
right,
sell him to somebody for 20 million.
I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently there was once where one of the guys at Newcastle went to go scout a team, and they noticed there was a player playing in the middle of the park, and like, I really like the look of that guy. Can we find out his details? And someone turned to him and said, "Yeah, that's the guy that we've loaned to this club."
I remember. I can't remember who it was, but yes, that is a true story.
Yeah. Sadly, I am in agreement with Mr. Moore again. I've gone for a 2-1 Sheffield United win, and what's worse, I've also gone for Latte Lath. I think he's in the last like 3 or 4 games, he's either hit the post or it literally headed about an inch over or a centimetre wide. So he's getting closer, so he must be due. And the 2 goals I've gone for Sheffield United, I've gone for O'Hare, and simply because he hasn't scored for about 8 years, and apparently appears to be back around the first team, get him down the Borough. He's guaranteed to score. I've gone for Brewster.
£20 million Ryan Brewster.
Exactly, and he has scored against the Borough before, so wouldn't surprise me if he notches in this one. Our third game of the week takes us to Friday night, and this one is again available on Big Boy Sky, where Leicester City take on Nottingham Forest. Was mentioned earlier in the pod by Mr. Mo. So his team, he will give his prediction last. I've gone for a 2-2 draw on this one. Obviously, old boy rule, sort of, in the fact that it's the manager, Stevie Cooper, in charge of Leicester now. Goal scorers wise, I've gone for a goal each for Vardy, because obviously, and Mavadidi, and then Wood and Anderson for Forest. Stu, what have you got down for City, Leicester City versus Nottingham Forest?
1-1 draw. I've got Anderson for Forest, and unfortunately, everybody's favourite Red Bull drinking, cigarette smoking, wind up merchant bastard, Jamie Vardy.
Honestly, for a second there, I thought you were going to give all that spiel and then just go, vouch fast or something like that. Andy?
Right. I've got 0-2.
Right.
But I'm like, let's face it, there's no way I'm not getting the Wood out. The Wood's always out. It's got to be out wherever I go. I was like, I won you. That's
well,
it.
as we said in the group text, he did come on last night to get some minutes back in the old legs, and he must be due either a start or certainly a goal involvement. Sure, soon. How do you see it panning out, Mr. Mo?
I have agreed with somebody on this podcast. Nope. It's you, Mr. Williams. I have agreed with you in pretty much all of it. Yeah, I was almost. It was one of them ones where I looked at the games this week and Forest not struggle against Palace, but kind of have some weird results against them. And then I was like, oh, but then it's Leicester and then I nearly called it Filbert Street, the old crisp bowl. And I thought it's gonna be Steve Cooper, and Forest fans just can't help themselves. I know they'll give Vardy shit, and that's gonna make him, of course, be his usual kind of thing. I thought you were gonna get a can of Red Bull out then, and then I thought, old boy brother rule. So I've got Vardy and Jordan Ayew to score for Leicester. And then I've got Wood and Anderson for Forest. So virtually the same as yourself, just old boy brother rule.
This is insane. So 3 of us have predicted Anderson to score. Has he actually scored for him yet?
He's not scored yet this season, no.
Why are we all on the Anderson train?
I don't know.
Well,
if he was really good last night.
Yeah, man was after last night. He was good. He was good. There was one bit though where he got the ball on the left hand edge of the penalty area and he went to take a shot and some guy blocked it. And he must have thought, nah, fuck it, I'll go anyway, and absolutely just like stubbed his toe against the other guy who was like hobbling around for a little bit. But fair play. Like, top marks for effort. Either the ball was going in top bins or the bloody defender was, one of the two.
Our 4th game of the week takes us to Saturday, and it's the second week in a row where our teams are playing on 3 separate days. Derby County, boo, versus Hull City, yay. Mr. Woodmansey's team, he will give his prediction last. Let's go to Andy first for the Derby versus Hull prediction.
Earlier in the podcast, I mentioned that I was getting out there looking for other names because there was a point in time where I was going to need some. It's a 0-3 for me. Burstow, Bedia, and Windy Miller.
Lovely jubbly. Matt?
I've gone for a Hull 2-1 win. Jackson for Derby. Bedia and Balumi for Hull.
Everyone's favourite cheese. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I've gone for Blackett Taylor to score for Derby and Bedia to score for Hull. Stu looked like he got a whiff of something disgusting under his nose there. Could it be his prediction?
We've got no. I'm not. I'm Jesus Christ. I'm going to predict us to lose against teams that are actually good, but not fucking Derby. On this occasion, we owe them one, I believe, from the last time that we played. Still, so I'm going for a 1-3 Hull win. With I'm sorry, Miss Jackson for Derby. I've got Marvin Malem, fresh off his blockage by Bobby Madley. I think he'll be itching to have a few shots in the next game or two. So I've gone for Malem. I've gone for Bedja. I'll rock with you, Steady Announcer Man, and everybody's favourite right wing pirate, Millar.
When you say right wing pirate, is that the
he plays on the right wing,
or not his political stance?
Correct. He's not going to get a milkshake thrown at him anytime soon.
And our final game of the week takes place on Sunday at everyone's favourite 3 p.m. slot on Sky Sports Big Boy Television, where Norwich City play Middlesbrough. Obviously, my team again. I will give the last prediction of the week. Let's go to Matt for Norwich City versus the Borough.
Not good. I've gone for a Norwich 2-1 win.
Goal scorers?
Sargent and Nunez for Norwich, and Latte Lath for the Borough.
Andy?
I've got the Borough to win 2-0. I have picked a name that I'm going to have to try and muddle my way through. I'm going to say Doak.
Doak? D-O-A-K?
That's the one.
I like it.
And Dr. Herzog. Woo, woo, woo.
Stu?
He's picked a character from Dexter and a character from Futurama. It's all TV shows again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, Paul, I've got Norwich 2, Borough 1. I've got Sargent and Saints for Norwich, and Hamilton for the Borough.
You can tell we've been doing this podcast for quite a while now, as we have a lot of agreement in certain spaces, and I too have gone for a 2-1 Norwich win on this one.
We've synchronised.
I've also gone for Sargent and Saints, but my Borough goal scorer I've gone for is McGree on that one.
I feel like for the last few weeks we've been saying that half of the Borough squad are due.
Yeah, true. Well, obviously, Marcus Fors is now back in full training and has come on as a substitute in the last 2 games. So he's potentially back in the mix as a potential goal scorer. Now that I've said that, he will inevitably go for the rest of the season without scoring and resort back to looking shit like he did when he was playing for Hull. That's the end of the predictions. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring to the table in a different capacity for the podcast this week? That would be a yes from Mr. Woodmansey.
Yeah. We've parted ways with our what is it? Vice chairman, I guess, Tan Kesler.
Okay.
It's a bit of a strange one, this, because Tan Kesler was pretty much the level-headed, I guess, of the duo that was Ajun and him, whereas Ajun would very much live up to the Simon Cowell of Turkey moniker and just be batshit crackers and do whatever the fuck he wanted. Tan was kind of the guy that would be then the sensible one, sat in the chair, like kind of giving it the PR spiel that you'd maybe perhaps come to expect from a football club. Nobody particularly saw it coming. He just went. There was rumours that he'd potentially got a job at the EFL, and therefore conflict of interests would have to leave his position at Hull. There are rumours emerging, which, purely from a legal standpoint, I ain't going into at this point. But if anything is confirmed, the EFL job may not be the reason, and the EFL job probably won't be happening. But yeah, as of now, that he's been sort of, what's the word? Like the linchpin of certain deals over the last few years, particularly dealings with Jadon Philogene, which obviously worked out pretty well for the club at the time, both in terms of playing staff and then monetary value afterwards. So yeah, be interested. If you remember a while back, I talked about that meeting, and Ajun referred to his own backroom team as the football brain. This guy would have been a big part of that, and now he's not there, and there's no immediate replacement announced. So therefore, that tells me that this wasn't something that was expected to happen either. But yeah, watch this space. Vice chairman's gone. We'll see how pivotal that is. I would guess that at least they've got time between now and January to get somebody in who can talk some fucking sense rather than just throw players under the bus and such as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad if they could go through like a season or a period of time where they don't slag off some of the playing staff. On that regard, actually, I did see a quick video of I believe the Birmingham City game at the weekend where ex-Hull keeper Ryan Alsop made a opposing player look rather foolish with his Cruyff turn in the box to get out of a situation. So obviously, the thoughts of the chairman spurred him on to prove that he can get it done, albeit at a lower division level, shall we say? Matt.
Yes. This is where my memory thinks. Had Thomas Tuchel been announced as the England manager before last week's pod?
Yeah, we discussed it. We discussed it briefly on the pod last week. But if you've got thoughts or
no,
by all means, bring it to the table.
Just decent manager, and kind of be interesting to see what he does. I do enjoy the chest thumping Neanderthals being, where's British? And why not got British? Everybody should be British. And you're like, yeah, all right then, because we're doing so well with that. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, yeah, he seems to kind of do his own thing, so hopefully he won't just pander to the kind of top 4 clubs. He will pick players who are worthy of it. And it's not me being a Forest fan and being like, oh yeah, Morgan's Kid White should be part of the England squad. No, I'm just, as long as the best players are picked for the team, then I'm happy with it. And, maybe we can shuffle Harry Kane into the distance, maybe.
But he was his manager at Bayern Munich. That's not going to happen.
I know.
I was gonna say with the chest thumping thing, but Matthew, we've nearly won things with an Englishman recently, because nearly counts, right? The thing I heard after we'd recorded last week was that yes, Thomas Tuchel, new England manager. Nobody picked up on the fact that his main number 1 guy, his chief assistant, is a Scouser.
Oh, who is it?
Mate, honestly, there was no subtitles on. I didn't have a chance.
And then Thomas Tuchel came and spoke. Hey,
they
From what I've seen,
covered it.
I think he's been an assistant at. I think he's been I don't know if it's his assistant at other clubs, but he's been at like Bayern, I think, before. So I think he's quite highly regarded. And I don't know if he ever spent time in like the Irish setup at times. I might have just made that up, but
so Lee Carsley.
Maybe.
No, he was definitely more Scouse than that guy, because when they finished like the segment, the little cloth came out from behind to wipe the camera lens. So.
Who's turned the sprinklers on at Wembley again?
There was something about saying about him being a proud Englishman, and something about an office in London. I think it was office. I couldn't tell if it was jail cell it meant. Anyway.
He's just been released by the Labour government.
Mr. Woodmansey's bias there, not coming through at all on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's fine. Liverpool's a lovely place.
I think we'll leave it there.
We'll count that as a YouTube Easter egg, shall we?
That's 3 points. They apparently give 3 points away out there.
What a place to end it on. Thank you, as per usual, to the three gentlemen on the screen who joined me to go through the details of their team this week. If you're new here, if this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast, maybe think about throwing a little subscribe our way. We would very much appreciate it. And there will be plenty of other material for you to peruse at your leisure. We don't just do the football podcast here, we do a weekly American football podcast that floats your boat. We have a monthly wrestling roundup podcast. There's the F1 podcast that comes your way from those fine fellas who cover the F1. And then, of course, once a week, Mr. Cook will open his brain hole and spew forth the thoughts contained within on the Darkest Timeline podcast. So, thank you for listening. We will be back next week to go through the games that we've just predicted now. We'll bring some more predictions to you for the forthcoming games. But until then, as per usual, take care of yourselves, keep an eye out for each other, and we will see you all next week. Tatty bye for now.
So there we go, what do you think to that? Another load of games gone, and a big old batch of games to come. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. There's a couple of places that you can drop reviews. Spotify, places like that. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. And that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye. And I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.